Good morning, everybody. Please join us. You are welcome here, wherever you're going to, wherever you're coming from. You are welcome here. You are welcome here, wherever you're going to, wherever you're coming from. You are welcome here, 'cause it's a house of love, a house of hope and dreams. It's a house of love, and you are welcome here. It's a house of love, a house of hope and dreams. It's a house of love, and you are welcome here. And now in Spanish, bienvenido aquí. Yo quiero que vayas tú, yo quiero que vengas hoy. Bienvenido aquí, bienvenido aquí. Yo quiero que vayas tú, yo quiero que vengas hoy. Bienvenido aquí, a este lugar de amor, de sueños e ilusión, a este lugar de amor. Bienvenido aquí, si es un lugar de amor, de sueños e ilusión, es un lugar de amor. Bienvenido aquí.
Good morning, and welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, once or twice a year, or are with us this morning for the first time, we are glad you are here. I'm Julia Fogel, your worship associate today. Our service is led by our minister, Reverend Sharon Wiley. Our worship musician this morning is Justin Gray, and our song leader is Jeff Hayes. Our tech team is Sarah Comic and Dean Gadet, and David O'Gwyn is back there too. Reverend Sharon and I have passed a rapid test this morning, so you will see us leading worship without our masks on. Welcome to our Sunday service. Welcome to those of you here in the chapel, and welcome to those of you watching live using Zoom. For those of us here in the chapel, you will notice that we have the back door open. This is to ensure good air circulation, along with the 4 air purifiers in the room. Please feel free to leave the chapel at any time if you are uncomfortable for any reason, and you will be able to hear what is happening in the chapel while you are outside on the courtyard. For those of you using Zoom, please notice the chat button on your Zoom menu. You are welcome to use the chat box during the service. Just be sure that when you post, that you've opened the little blue menu to select everyone so that all can see what's being shared. I want to especially welcome those of you who are newcomers at Chalice this morning. Towards the end of the service, there will be a link in the online chat box for adding your name to our email list. In-person newcomers have already provided their email when you signed in. Our weekly email is the best way to get information about the many groups and activities we offer here at Chalice. Now, let's take a breath together.
I'm Judy Cavallo,
I'm Steve Schlesinger.
and we live on land stolen from the Payam
Quishim,
Quishim, now known as
San Marcos.
My name is Dennis Brown, and I live on land stolen from the Payam Quishim, now known as Marietta.
My name is Dre Marsh, and I live on land stolen from the Kumeyaay and Payam Quishim, now known as Escondido.
My name is Jeff Harlig. I live on land stolen from the Payam Quishim. That area is now known as Vista.
I'm Debbie Street Idell. I live on land stolen from the Kumeyaay. It's now known as Scripps Ranch.
My name is Amaki Ayipa, and I live on land stolen from the Payam Quishim, now known as San Marcos.
Now we light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I'd like to invite Jessica Schultz to light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting words are by Bruce Southworth. For the gift of this day and for our community of spiritual nurture and compassion, we give thanks. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of heart and soul. The words of our call to worship this morning come from Elena Westbrook. When all around us voices are raised in anger, hatred spilling into the streets and sparking more hatred, sometimes the best we can do is to sink our hands into the soil. Let the fights over abstractions ebb away like the water flowing into the earth. Fill your fingers with dirt that is itself the product of rocks worn to powder over millennia, leavened with the particles of other lives, lives of leaves and vegetables and other animals, once as warm and active as we are now. Everything dies and returns to its source, breaks down into the ingredients of some new life, bits of humus, squirming bacteria, a tiny egg. This is real. The sun warm on your back, the soil cool under your bare feet, a tiny new stem that will unfurl to grow a sweet red tomato, and the hand of a friend gently helping you to rise. Even on our most difficult days, we can touch the soil and be grateful for the earth and the love that sustains us. Let us worship together. Please rise in body or spirit to join in singing.
Give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Give thanks for this precious day. Give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. We give thanks for this precious day.
Sunday worship is the shared spiritual practice of our community, and we tend to the congregation during this time by sharing and honoring our joys and sorrows. Here in the chapel, you are welcome to write your joy or sorrow onto a candle card, which will be collected from you. Online, please write your joy or sorrow, including your name, into the chat box. These joys and sorrows will be read out loud, will be spoken out loud, and then we will remove this part of the service from the recording that goes onto our YouTube channel. So this sharing won't be publicly available online. So we have a few minutes of music so you can write down what you would like to share. If you would like to send Reverend Sharon a confidential note about your joy or sorrow, or to make a prayer request, please email her. Her email address will be on the screen in a moment.
Our story is called A Terrible Thing Happened, written by Margaret M. Holmes and illustrated by Carrie Pillow. Sherman Smith saw the most terrible thing. He was very upset. It really scared Sherman to see such a terrible thing. Sherman did not like feeling so afraid. He did not want to remember what happened. So Sherman decided not to think about the terrible thing he saw. Sherman thought that would make him feel better. At first, the plan seemed to work. Sherman woke up every morning, he brushed his teeth, and he went to school. Sherman played with his friends. He teased his sister, and he walked his dog. Everything seemed all right for a while, but something inside of Sherman was starting to bother him. Sherman had to play more, run faster, and sing louder in order to forget the terrible thing he saw. Other things started happening to Sherman too. Sometimes he did not feel hungry. Sometimes his stomach hurt or his head hurt. Sometimes he felt sad, but he did not know why. Sometimes he was nervous for no reason at all. Sometimes he did not sleep very well. Sometimes when he did sleep, he had very bad dreams. The bad dreams scared Sherman. All of these things made Sherman angry. It seemed like Sherman was angry all the time. Sherman started getting in trouble at school. Sometimes he felt so angry he did mean things. Getting in trouble so often made Sherman feel bad. Sherman did not understand all of his bad feelings. He felt confused. Sometimes parents help children figure out their feelings. Sometimes teachers or other grown-ups help. That is how Sherman met Miss Maple. Ms. Maple helped Sherman think about his feelings. She listened while Sherman talked to her. They played while Sherman talked. Sherman did not feel as mixed up when he talked to Ms. Maple. Once, when Sherman and Ms. Maple were coloring, she told him to draw a picture of how he felt when he was angry. This seemed like a strange thing to draw, but Sherman did it. After that, Sherman drew lots of pictures of the pain in his stomach, pictures of the bad dreams he had, pictures of the fear he felt. And at last, pictures of the terrible thing he saw. Sherman and Ms. Maple talked about the pictures. He asked if the terrible thing he saw was his fault. Sherman said he worried a lot about that. No, Ms. Maple told Sherman, it was not your fault. Sherman told Ms. Maple a lot of things. He told her about the bad dreams. He told her how scared he felt. It was all very hard to do. Ms. Maple was proud that Sherman was trying to talk about such hard things. Sherman felt that it felt good to let his feelings out. Feeling good helped Sherman feel stronger. When Sherman felt stronger, he did not feel so angry. Nothing can change the terrible thing that Sherman saw, but now he does not feel so mean. He is not so scared or worried. His stomach does not hurt as much, and the bad dreams hardly ever happen. Sherman Smith is feeling much better now. He just thought you would want to know. We've heard that story before, but in the third year of pandemic, I feel like, oh my God, is Sherman okay? I hope he's all right. Our reading comes from an article in the Press and Dakotan newspaper in South Dakota, published just last week. The article is by journalist Cora Van Olsen. With May being Mental Health Awareness Month, now is a good time to take a personal inventory of mental health needs, especially after 2 years of coping with the COVID-19 pandemic. In March, a report detailing a global 25% rise in mental health issues was released by the World Health Organization, and according to its website, was intended as a wake-up call to all countries to step up the availability of mental health services. The increase in reported depression and anxiety worldwide is reflective of what mental health providers are seeing locally. Children and adolescents were probably the hardest hit. The clinical director for Lewis and Clark Behavioral Health Services reported that children and adolescents were probably the hardest hit with the many changes, the fears of COVID-19, the need to be out of school, and the change in their learning. She added that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention indicated that approximately 45% of adolescents reported feeling sad and lonely this past year. Also impacted were women. At the conference of the American Society of Addiction Medicine, they talked about a significant increase in the diagnosis of alcohol use disorder coming out of the pandemic. And the group most highly affected there were women between the ages of 30 and 50. The data shows that there was an increase in the amount of alcohol consumed by about 41% in that specific group. Also, overall binge drinking increased by 21%. Overdose deaths across the country are also up, topping 100,000 per year, primarily from opioid use, which has seen an increase of 28.5% from 2020. Suicide rates have thankfully remained unchanged. The bright spot in all this has been the ability of mental health providers to use telehealth. And in cases where there was a technology gap, communication by phone, to deliver mental health services. As communities continue to settle back into a new normal, it is important that anyone struggling with anxiety, depression, or managing life stressors seek professional help. The take-home message is this: while the pandemic led to an increase in mental health concerns, it also facilitated the recognition of the need to address and care for one's mental health along with physical health. It's the close of that article. So that was a lot of information at once. So let's take a breath together and hear some of those main points again. There's been a global rise in mental health issues of 25%, particularly depression and anxiety. In the United States, binge drinking has increased by 21%. Alcohol consumption has increased 41% in women between the ages of 30 and 50. Overdose deaths are up by 28%, especially from opioid use. We have been through a lot. We are still going through a lot. I titled this sermon Recovering from the Pandemic, and having done so, I immediately realized I wasn't sure what recovering means. On the one hand, it could imply getting something back, returning to some previous condition. I think that's off the table. There's no going back. This whole pandemic, I've been searching for some parallel experience that could be helpful to us in understanding what we've been through, what we're going through. I have arrived recently at the idea that living through the pandemic is similar to living through a war. Some people have been impacted far more than others. Certainly, people have died. Doctors and nurses, like soldiers, have been through experiences the rest of us can barely imagine. Some people have or will have PTSD from what they've been through, what they've witnessed. And those of us who have come through, at least so far, relatively untouched by the virus itself, have still been impacted tremendously by all the changes to the world we live in and by the effort to stay safe. This analogy may help us understand that there's no going back to what was before. The pandemic has changed us forever. We will take all that we have lived through with us as we go forward now. Recovery for us doesn't mean returning to an old normal, but it might mean the building of a new normal. So we are, I think, just starting this work. We're in the third year of a pandemic that isn't over. The first year was about survival, wearing masks, staying at home as much as possible, minimizing in-person contact. That was a hard year in what it required from us, especially parents with young children. But there was also a simplicity. Do what you needed to do. Wear your mask, stay at home if you could, minimize in-person contact. The second year was about the rollout of vaccines, the wonderful possibility that the pandemic was over, and the dawning awareness that the pandemic would not come to a close because not enough people were being vaccinated. Year two was terrible emotionally. The Delta variant hit here in San Diego in August and September last year, and the Omicron variant hit here as hard in January and February of this year, probably the worst time of the pandemic in San Diego in terms of numbers. Now in our third year, we are at last building a new normal. The focus of public health measures is on ensuring there is sufficient hospital capacity for those who may fall ill. We have lost access to much of the data that used to come to us regularly from county officials. Right now, one of our most reliable sources of information about what's happening locally comes from Scripps Research, which is monitoring and reporting on COVID RNA in our wastewater. This is how we know we are currently in a surge in San Diego County. But unlike our other recent surges, this one is not a reason for everyday activities to change, and there's been very little information about this surge in our local news. The reason this doesn't make the news is that there are plenty of hospital and ICU beds available. That's the criteria for what we are concerned about. My own experience is that although I know multiple people who have had COVID recently, another sign of the surge, they were all vaccinated and able to treat it at home. The virus remains deadly for unvaccinated people of all ages, including those too young to be vaccinated. It is also still more dangerous the older you are, even if you are vaccinated and boosted. Here at Chalice, our care for our youngest and oldest congregants is one of the reasons that we remain very careful about our gatherings as a community. This is the new normal. In this new normal, I take a rapid test every Sunday morning that I lead worship. The worship associate does too if they want to. It's not required. And if those tests show we're fine, we take off our masks to lead worship. And if we don't take the tests, we keep our masks on to lead worship. Up until a few weeks ago, the song leader could also take a rapid test and sing without a mask. But now that the COVID numbers are trending up, we've walked that back, and song leaders keep their masks on now, and they have these great singing masks that work really well for them. And these protocols will change again when the numbers trend back down. So there's no final decision. There's no, this is how we do it now. We just change to reflect the changing situation. In this new normal, I take a rapid test before any large indoor gathering that I attend. I was just at a memorial service for a family friend on Thursday, followed by an indoor reception. I wore a mask for much of that time, but not all of it. I took a test this morning, which I needed to do for worship, but I also would have done because it's now 3 days after the gathering. And I'll take another test on Tuesday, which will be 5 days after the gathering. The recommendation to test before and after large events, gatherings, and travel comes from the California Department of Public Health. Testing regularly is part of the new normal for those of us who are around a lot of people of all ages. At that memorial service, there were some people who kept their masks on the whole time. There were also some people who never wore masks at all. This too is part of the new normal. We are on our way to recovering from the pandemic. But here's the thing. Here's the thing I think you're not gonna like. It's not going to take weeks. It's not going to take months. It will take years. Reverend Sunshine Wolf, one of our UU ministers, gave a webinar last year, when we thought it was gonna be over, last year on recovering from the trauma of the pandemic. And they suggest it will take communities like ours 5 to 10 years to recover. 5 to 10 years. Now, I expect that some of you will hate the idea that it's going to take us 5 to 10 years to recover from the pandemic. We want this to be over. We yearn for this to be over. We want things to be fine. We want to assert right now, today, some of us, that we're fine, it's fine. You can assert that to your heart's content. I know better. You know better. 1 million people have died of COVID in the United States. We are not fine. We have not even begun to grapple with what we've been through because what we've been through isn't even over yet. I have relatives who are unvaccinated. So do you, many of you. We have loved ones, young and old, who are vulnerable. I don't live with my fear now the way I did that first year. Fear like it was alive and breathing right next to me. Fear heavy on me. But I still live with fear now. Fear I keep in my purse. It's not too heavy to carry, but still always with me when I leave the house. My sister caught COVID a few weeks ago. My sister with asthma. Fully vaccinated, boosted, always wearing a mask. No idea how she caught it. She's fine now, but you know what that was like. We all know what it is like when our world seems fine and okay, but suddenly we get the news that a loved one has COVID. This too is part of our new normal. The news of infection, the worry. Even when it is over, the lingering concern about whether long COVID will now be part of the after effects. So my sabbatical begins in 6 weeks, starting July 4th. Thank you, someone clapping in the back. Starting July 4th, I will be away from you for 4 months. And although I need that time for rest, I will also worry while I'm away from you that you will be missing out on the critically important things that I need to tell you. So this sermon is one I hope you will return to time and time again while I am gone. These are the words I would be saying to you over and over again in the coming months were I with you. And I will be saying them again for the next 5 to 10 years. So I have 3 ideas to share with you, 3 affirmations, 3 teachings. Use these like mantras, saying them over and over again to get yourselves through the hard times. The first, be gentle with yourselves. You know this one. I've been saying it for years already. I've been saying it again and again during the pandemic. We're exhausted and traumatized. I can't state to you how confused we all are, not just me, all of us. We're forgetful and overwhelmed, we're confused, we're unmotivated. Things that used to be simple feel hard. For the past 6 months, at the bottom of my emails has been my pandemic status, slogging through the foggy mud, doing the best we can. And like, I thought that was true 6 months ago, and I just feel like it's gotten worse and worse. Like, 6 months ago seems easy compared to now. It is okay to set aside the to-do list in favor of going for a walk, visiting a friend, or just watching TV. When you're really having a hard day, take care of yourself like you were a child staying home with a cold. Cuddle up in a soft blanket, have some tea or cocoa. Be gentle with yourselves. Now, the second teaching lives in some tension with the first. It is this: you can rise to the occasion. Even more simply, you can do it. There are times that having a positive mindset can make all the difference. Think of what we know about the placebo effect. Our minds are so powerful that believing we have taken medicine can affect the body in a positive way, as if we actually took medicine. It matters how we frame the challenges we face. So if we're only gentle with ourselves every day, we might neglect to pay our bills, take out the trash, and fulfill the obligations of living. If we only tell ourselves to rise to the occasion, we may find ourselves more and more exhausted every day. The skill you will be building and experimenting with is learning which affirmation serves you the best at what times. Be gentle with yourselves. Rise to the occasion. And the third teaching is to show up and keep showing up. The pandemic taught us to stay at home. We need to rebuild our muscles of going places and doing things, not because there's any inherent value in being busy, but because there is healing that comes from being out in the world and being with other people. A couple of weeks ago was National Day of Prayer. The interfaith group I'm in here in Escondido always has an outdoor gathering at Grape Day Park to share prayers from our differing faith traditions. I was tired and I didn't want to go, but I went anyway. I went because the relationships I have with my interfaith colleagues is important to me, are important to me. We work together for a better Escondido. We show up for each other. When it was my turn at the microphone, I shared that I had not wanted to come. And the crowd laughed, because we all know that feeling. And in fact, I might not have been alone in wanting to not come that day. But I also shared that I was so glad I had come, because hearing the prayers for a better world, prayers for homeless people, prayers for people struggling with addiction, prayers for our community leaders, I felt so nourished to remember that I am not alone in yearning and working for a better world. And I felt energized and fed by our time together. Sometimes we have to make ourselves do things we don't feel like doing because we know we will feel better once we have done them. Keep showing up. Keep showing up for people in your lives, for your church community. Keep showing up for your own life. Be gentle with yourselves. Rise to the occasion. Keep showing up. Be gentle with yourselves. Rise to the occasion. Keep showing up. May it be so. You are invited to rise in body or spirit to join in singing.
We will say one more prayer till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll take one more prayer, one more song. We will sing one more song till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. As Buddhist teacher Joseph Goldstein has said, it's important to understand that generosity is a practice. It's not just a single event. It's a quality in our hearts and minds that we can develop and cultivate. Please text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, know that once you text the amount, you'll get a reply with a link to follow to enter your credit card information. If you have already entered the information previously when you've donated, you won't need to enter it again. If your Sunday donation is meant to be part of your pledge payment, please be sure to indicate pledge after the dollar amount. The phone number for text donations will be on the screen in a moment. Please give generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. With love at the center, the mission of this congregation is to inspire, connect, and act.
Will you join me in the spirit of prayer? The words come from the Reverend Connie Simon. Spirit of life, we have been plagued these years by a tiny yet powerful virus that has ravaged our world, disrupted our daily existence, and taken too many lives. We have been distressed by economic uncertainty, and many of us continue to struggle financially. We have been racked by political divisiveness that has torn apart families and friendships. We have been troubled by racial injustice and prejudice that continues to divide us at a time when we need one another more than ever. We are tired. And still, we are grateful. Grateful for the earth that produces the food we eat. Grateful for the hands that grow it, tend it, deliver it, and prepare it. Grateful for the warmth of the sun and shelter from the cold. Grateful for those who work to heal our sickness. Grateful for our families and friends. Grateful for one another and the opportunity to begin again in love, to address our differences and mend our relationships. Grateful for the gift of life itself. We are grateful. Amen. You're invited again to rise in body or spirit to join in singing.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
Before we close this service, I'd like to remind newcomers online to please use the link in the chat box to add your name to our email list. Our closing words come from Darcy Roque. There is too much hardship in this world to not find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of divine presence every day. Love and blessings to each of you. Blessed be. You are invited to close our time together by singing the well. After our closing hymn, please return to your seats for an announcement.
Drink from the well together, cool, cool water that quenches my thirst. A thirst for justice, a thirst for joy, a thirst for the love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well. We drink from the well together. Hand in hand we are standing as one, standing for justice, standing for joy, stand for a love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well. Open the doors to the world outside, spirits renew from within. Look for the dream in each other's eyes, the spark where a new world begins. Yes, we drink from the well together. Heart to heart we are dancing as one, dancing for justice, dancing for joy, dance for a love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well, spirits renew. We drink from the well, stand